This is a videotape to show you something that I can't show you on a chalkboard or in a classroom. It's August 31st, and it's really hot outside, and it's about 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But this is the only time that we could do this. If you, Keith, our cameraman, if you'd like to pan the garden here a little bit, you can see that this is where we had our summer garden, and we ripped everything out about a month ago, and all we have left is grass. And Larry, come on over here with the camera. Larry planted some eggplants back in April, and as you can see, he just picked some eggplants a couple days ago. The trouble is we don't know how to cook them, and so we usually throw them away. But if you can zoom in here, Keith, and see that there's still some eggplants ripening. Can you see that in there? So his eggplants are still doing good, so he left them in. We're getting ready for the fall garden. Come in here a little closer, walk over here. Don't trip over this stuff. He's still got his peppers growing too. And if you can zoom down here, you can still see some peppers. Here's a yellow one. Here's a red one down here. And so as you can see that even though it's August, it's kind of the end of the summer season. We've ripped everything out. The grass has taken over. We've had a vacation. Now it's time to get started on the fall garden. So, if you'll follow me over here. About a week ago, I dug up this area here and planted corn. Now it's August, and you say, why should I plant corn in August? Well, it's usually a spring crop, but if you put it in August and you get kind of a short variety, you can go ahead and get another crop before it gets cold. If you want to walk over here, Keith, and then zoom in, and you can see this row of corn has come up. I only planted this a week ago today. So it actually came up in about 5 days, which is pretty fast, but because the soil's so warm, it did that. Now, there's a few others. This row, for some reason, I think I planted it deeper. Just a couple of them already started coming up. But anyway, I've got 4 rows of corn in here, and it's planted in a block so that it'll pollinate. But what I want to show you is how we're going to get the garden ready, how we're going to add the stuff to the soil, and then how we're going to plant. First thing you do is you pick a spot for your garden. Now, once you turn off the first thing to do is decide where you're going to put your garden. This is our yard here, and this is north right here. And as you can see, the exposure here on the north wall, which is facing south, is full sun all day long. The only part that you shouldn't plant a garden is against a north-facing wall on the south side of your yard, which is behind me right now, and it's in shade almost all year long. Vegetables need sun to grow. We put our garden over here on the south side of our yard facing east. And that fence, what it does is it shades our garden in the summer in the afternoon. As you can see, the shade's just starting to fall along there, along the dirt, and that's nice because when it gets so hot in the summer, it keeps your stuff from burning up. It gets enough sun to grow, but some shade in the afternoon. Now what we're going to do is once you've decided where you want your garden, if you have it in an area that's got grass like this area, the first thing to do is to kill the grass. If you try digging it out, it's not going to work very well. So what we do is you get some spray, or something like Roundup or Doomsday. You can get the concentrate and mix it in a tank sprayer like this. And what you do is you follow the directions, you put it in here, you put water in here to dilute it, and then you pump it up like this to get the pressure. You can also buy, if it's not a big area, you can buy the Doomsday or Roundup already diluted with its own applicator. You don't have to buy it if you don't have one of these tank sprayers if it's not a big area. Okay, once you've got this, now we're going to go over here where there's some thick grass. What you want to do is spray this. This isn't spraying very well. You need to spray this. Get all the leaves wet. This absorbs through the leaves. Now this isn't toxic to the ground. It's not going to hurt the ground. That's why it's good for vegetable gardens, because if it hits the ground it becomes inert. It only absorbs through the leaves. But you need to kill the Bermuda grass, because if you dig this stuff up, it's not going to, if you leave any roots in the ground, it's going to come right back. You want to kill all the roots and stuff before you dig it out. Now this stuff is safe. Let me pump it up a little bit more. This stuff is safe. A lot of people are worried about using chemicals in their garden. But Roundup's so safe, or Doomsday, that I'm not even worried about spraying it on my hand. You see me spraying it on my hand? It didn't hurt. It's a little hot. But see, my hand's perfectly fine, hasn't shriveled up or anything, and I'm not worried about it. Spray a little on here. Anyway, so I sprayed the grass, and then tomorrow we'll come back and we're going to dig up the garden and plant our seeds. So that's all we have, and we'll be back tomorrow. Today we're going to, we picked the location of our garden. We're going to put the stuff in there and dig it up. The things we're going to use is manure, ammonium sulfate, to get the soil better. Now, as you can see this area here, if you'll look over here, I've dug this up actually, and I'm going to plant cucumbers along this wall here. I'm going to put some string up, and the cucumbers are going to climb up the wall and grow up there. They're not going to take up very much room because they're going to be up against the wall, and then I can plant something shorter in front of the cucumbers. So the first thing you want to do, if there's some weeds or grass in this area, is you want to come in and dig it out. Now, the key to a successful vegetable garden is to dig it deep, not just a couple inches, but dig it at least the depth of the shovel. Okay? See how deep the shovel is? It's about 1 foot long, and you want to dig it at least. So when you're digging, go ahead and go down at least the depth of the shovel, dig it up and turn it over. Now let me add that you should water the area before you dig it up, or it's going to be too wanted to talk to me. Okay, what we're doing is we're digging the soil up in preparation. Now, I've already dug this up the other day, and then I watered it yesterday so it would be moist to dig today. When you dig up your garden, you have to water it deeply a day or two before. You don't want it muddy, but if it's dry, all you're going to get is it's going to be too hard to dig. If it's muddy, you're just going to get big clods when it dries out. So it's just perfect now. As you can see, I don't know, it's so bright out here, but the soil's nice and moist underneath. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some steer manure, and we're going to spread a layer of this on top. Let me get some of this dead grass out of here. Steer manure on top of here. Now, steer manure has nitrogen fertilizer in it, but the main reason you put it in is because it conditions the soil by making it looser because of the organic matter. Now you want to put a layer of about 2 to 3 inches. Since it's a little thick over there, I put it a little thinner over there. On top, 2 to 3 inch layer on top. I'm going to even this manure out a little bit with my rake. Now right now, the only part we're going to plant today is just this little trough here with cucumbers. I'm just going to plant 1 row in a straight line here to grow up the fence. Now, in addition to the manure, I'm also going to put in here some ammonium phosphate fertilizer. I don't know if you can read this. This isn't ammonium sulfate, it's ammonium phosphate. See the number 1620? The 20 is the phosphorus, which is necessary for vegetables to grow, and so we're putting a fertilizer in to do this. You can use an all-purpose fertilizer. You can use a vegetable fertilizer, but you don't want to use something that just has this number. You want to have something that has this middle number. Now, how much of this do you put on? Well, in the sheet that I'm going to give you guys, it'll give you exactly how much of this you need for a certain area. Now, I'm going to take and not measure because I've done this enough. I'm going to sprinkle this stuff on top. Probably about 3 or 4 handfuls along here to go in this trench. Now also, my soil doesn't need it, but a lot of soils around here probably need some soil sulfur also. And also the sheet will tell you about that. The soil sulfur will counteract the alkalinity. Okay, now that we have this in, we're going to dig it all in. So what you do is you come over here, and you remember you're going to dig at least 1 foot deep. You go down, you turn this over, you try to mix in the manure and the fertilizer down into the root zone where the roots are going to go. Okay, and if you have any grass or whatever, go ahead and pull it out because the grass roots will come out or will grow again. Now I'm also going to mix this up a little bit. I'm not just going to turn it over once. I'm going to mix it a few times so that the fertilizer and the manure gets all mixed in. Now this is really easy. The first time you dig up your garden, it's not going to be nice and loose like this. You're going to be chopping up dirt clods. But if you've moistened the soil beforehand, it won't be that tough. Okay, let's go ahead and turn off the video camera. It's been a couple of days. You can see that the grass here is still alive, and the Roundup or the Doomsday that we use hasn't taken an effect. But it will die. And remember, this stuff is safe. It can't hurt you at all. And whatever, you get it on yourself, it's not going to hurt your hands, or it's not going to hurt the vegetables or whatever. So feel free to use it. If you get some on you, don't worry about it. It's not going to hurt your hands or anything. Okay, now we're going to, as you can see, I finished digging all of this in. And what we're going to do now is plant the cucumber seeds. Now before you do this, when you dig up the soil, it gets really loose. And so what you might want to do is kind of walk on it to pack it down a little bit. The reason I do this is usually when I dig it up, it's so loose that when I go to water it just sinks a whole bunch. So I'm going to walk on that. Now, this is a smaller area than usual. Now you want to get this level. We're not going to make the kind of rows like farmers do. What we're going to do is we're going to do a trough to hold a bunch of water, because in Arizona it dries out so fast that we want to have an area that we can flood with water. So see this berm right here? If you can, it's higher than the rest of it, and it's higher back here. And so what that does is this area here is lower, and it'll hold the water. You can put, 3 or 4 inches of water, 2 or 3 inches of water, and let it soak way down. So once we've leveled this out, it's time to plant. Now, if you can switch back over here to the corn, I did the same thing with this. I've got a berm all the way around the corn to hold the water in, and instead of making the rows like a farmer would, it's completely flat. When I put the water in there, it just fills it up and soaks in. Now you can make the rows if you want, but I found through experience it's just easier to make little sections. Now you don't want an area too much bigger than this, or you can't get in there to weed or whatever. This is almost too big to reach into the middle. Most of the sections I'm going to make are going to be about 4 feet by 8 feet. And the berms on here, I'm going to be able to walk on. Now I haven't had to walk on this one yet, so it's still kind of loose. And that way you can walk in between your little areas. You can reach in and harvest, weed, or whatever. But this is going to be a little different area. I'm going to plant cucumbers along here so they can grow up the wall. So I got this area leveled out. A lot of times, to make sure, especially a bigger area like this, I watered this before I planted the corn over here. I watered this, let it settle, and I found out I had some high spots. And so what I did was, after it dried out, I re-raked it again and got it level. Then I planted the corn. Okay, now, I bought some cucumber seeds. Now, there aren't a lot of things you can plant in August. Cucumbers and corn usually you plant in the spring, but because of our weird weather here, you can also plant in August. Most of the other stuff in our fall garden, we're going to wait for a few more weeks till it cools off a little bit. These are pickling cucumbers, because I don't eat that many, and so I'm going to try it. I've never pickled any, but we're going to try it. Okay. Always follow the instructions on it. It'll tell you how far to space them and how deep to do it. Okay, now we're going to use something like this, or a rake, and dig a little furrow. Now this says here to plant these a 1/2 inch deep. So, right through the middle of this thing, I'm just going to plant one row, and so I'm going to make a little furrow here. They told me at the hospital that I wouldn't be able to use this hand for a while, but it's coming in quite handy. Anyway, so let's go ahead and shut off the video camera for a minute. Okay, now you can plant these in what they call hills, which is a little round group. And that's what I did for my pumpkins and cantaloupe this summer. But I'm going to plant these in a row, and the reason I'm going to do that is so I can put a trellis up and have them grow up the fence to save space. Now the cucumber seeds are bigger than a lot of seeds like carrot or lettuce seeds, so they're a little easier to handle. If you can see how big those are. Now I'm going to plant these probably about 1 inch or 2 apart, and I'll probably end up thinning them a little later to 2 to 4 inches apart. So I'm going to go ahead and I don't know if you can get the angle over here, you may have to walk, but where I made my little furrow, I'm going to go ahead and drop a seed every few inches And probably what I'll do is, put plenty of seeds in here. Don't worry about saving seeds. It's better to plant a few too many than not enough. Now since the plant is a 1/2 inch deep, so I'm just going to take my finger and poke them down. The soil is fairly soft. I'm going to poke them down about a 1/2 inch deep with my finger. There's, whatever way you do it's the best is fine. And then I'm going to take some soil. There's one still sticking up. And I'm going to pour it over the top. And I'm going to pat it down with my hand and firm the soil over it. Not real hard, but enough to make sure it's firm. Okay? And if there's a couple of low spots or high spots, see if you can kind of level them out so that they're all kind of even. Okay. I'm going to do that all the way down, but we won't show it now. Whatever. But after I've done that,